What's a better way to spend an afternoon or evening than at the movies? Something magical happens every time you enter the theater and take your seat, in anticipation of seeing your favorite movie star on the big screen. He was the quintessential American hero, steadfast, brave, and a force to be reckoned with. No one rode as tall in the saddle as the screen's greatest cowboy, idolized by generations of moviegoers around the world. The legendary star whose career spanned 50 years and more than 150 films. He was John Wayne. I'm Timothy Knight, and this is John Wayne in the movies. In 1939, 13 years after he got his start playing bit parts in silent films, John Wayne finally became a star in John Ford's classic, Stagecoach. The Duke won the breakthrough role of the Ringo Kid, thanks to Ford, who saw the makings of a star in the 32-year-old actor who'd paid his dues, appearing in dozens of low-budget westerns. Two of Hollywood's finest character actors, Thomas Mitchell and Donald Meek, co-star in Stagecoach, as does John Carradine, who later appeared in Ford's The Grapes of Wrath, and Claire Trevor, in the first of her 3 films with the Duke, who joined Ford in Monument Valley to shoot one of the greatest westerns ever made.
From the adventures of these American frontier characters, John Ford has created a truly great motion picture, Stagecoach, a drama as forceful and as true as The Informer, and as gripping as The Hurricane.
Did you all hear what the lieutenant said?
What are you trying to do, scare somebody?
If you'll take my advice, ma'am, you won't take this trip.
My husband is with his troops in Dry Fork. If he's in danger, I want to be with him.
All right, folks.
Hey, Curly, why don't you take the cuffs off the kid? He's mighty handy with a gun.
You drive them horses. I'll take care of the kid.
The man works all his life to get a hold of some money so that he can enjoy life, and has to run into a trap like this.
Trap, brother? You mean the Apaches? There's been no sign of them.
You don't see any signs of them. They strike like rattlesnakes.
You talk too much, Gatewood.
Don't threats, don't please.
Take it easy, Gatewood. We may need that fighting before we get to the ferry.
You wouldn't be much good in a fight, you jailbird.
Oh, leave the kid alone. He's handcuffed.
Ringo asked me to marry him. Is that wrong for a girl like me? If a man and woman love each other, it's all right, ain't it, Doc?
Don't you know that boy's headed back for prison? Besides, if you two go into Lordsburg together, he's got to know all about you.
You didn't answer what I asked you last night.
Look, kid, why don't you try to escape?
I gotta go to Lordsburg. Why don't you go to my ranch and wait for me?
Wait for a dead man.
1948 was a banner year for westerns, and for Wayne, who starred in 2 classics of the genre. The Duke reteamed with director John Ford for the gripping Fort Apache, based on the James Warner Bella short story, The Massacre. Wayne portrays Captain York, a respected Civil War veteran, stationed at the remote Fort Apache Cavalry Post, who locks horns with the new regiment commander, Lieutenant Colonel Thursday, an arrogant taskmaster played by Henry Fonda. In one of her last films, former child star Shirley Temple co-stars as Thursday's headstrong daughter in this first film in John Ford's celebrated cavalry trilogy, set against the majestic backdrop of Ford's favorite location, Monument Valley.
Fort Apache, last western outpost. Here live the long, lean cavalrymen who fear no living soul.
Here, too, are their women, wives, mothers, sweethearts. Brought to the screen with dramatic intensity by director John Ford, Fort Apache stars John Wayne, Henry Fonda, Shirley Temple, Pedro Armendariz, with Ward Bond, George O'Brien, Victor McLaglen, Anna Lee, Irene Rich, Dick Foran, Guy Kibbe, Grant Withers, John Agar.
Colonel, if you send out the regiment, Cochise will think I've tricked him.
Exactly. We have tricked him into returning to American soil, and I intend to see that he stays here.
Colonel, Thursday, I gave my word to Cochise. No man is going to make a liar out of me, sir.
Tell them I find them without honor.
Él lo encuentra sin honor.
Tell them they're not talking to me, but to the United States
No
government.
le está hablando a él, sino al gobierno americano.
Tell them if they have not started by dawn, we will attack.
Y le da de
Tell them
plazas en
that.
alba, si no atacará.
After Fort Apache, Wayne joined newcomer Montgomery Clift and director Howard Hawks' Red River, a big-budget adaptation of the Borden Chase short story The Chisholm Trail, shot on location in Arizona. Wayne took the role of Tom Dunson, a hard-driving Texas cattle rancher, after Hawks' first choice, Gary Cooper, turned it down. Making his feature film debut, Clift plays Dunson's estranged foster son, Matthew Garth, who accompanies Dunson and his team on an epic cattle drive from Texas to Missouri. Life imitated art for the Red River stars, whose off-camera relationship was strained at best, which only enhanced their performances as bitter adversaries in Hawks' classic film.
We got 1,000 miles to go. There's going to be Indian territory. It's going to be a fight all the way. There'll be no quitting along the way, not by me and not by you.
You'll need me. You'll need a woman. You need what a woman can give you to do what you have to do.
I've made up my mind.
Put your arms around me, Tom. Got blood on your cheek.
Is it going to make you faint?
I hope not. At least not until I've done something I've been wanting to do.
Sherry was right. You're soft. Every time you turn around, expect to see me. There's one time you'll turn around and I'll be there. I'm gonna kill you, man.
Wayne's performance as Tom Dunson was hailed as magnificent by the entertainment trade publication Variety. And while he didn't receive an Academy Award nomination for Red River, the Duke got something that probably meant more to him in the long run. Praise from his hard-to-please mentor, John Ford, who said after seeing Red River, "I never knew the big son of a bitch could act." The second and best film in John Ford's Cavalry trilogy, She Wore a Yellow Ribbon opened in the fall of 1949, to glowing reviews and long lines at the box office. Shot in vibrant Technicolor, this beautiful film deservedly won the Academy Award for Best Color Cinematography. Wayne portrays Captain Nathan C. Griddles, the veteran commander of the 7th Cavalry, who reluctantly puts his retirement on hold to lead one last mission. Joanne Drew, the Duke's leading lady from Red River, plays the young woman Griddles must escort to safety, as he and his men face the prospect of a war with the Cheyenne.
The frontier men, their nights of danger, their laughs, their loves. You feel the penetrating chill of savage war cries, the piercing impact of an arrow shot from ambush, of Indians of all nations banded together for one last war on the advancing white men. And into this danger-infested land comes one woman, young, provocative. Because of her, men fight heroically. Because of her, men die.
I know all this is because of me.
Only the man who commands can be blamed. Rests on me.
Don't pull rank on me. You've been green-eyed ever since she put on that yellow ribbon. Button up that shirt, mister.
Please.
You can sneer all you want to, but you keep your paws off my girl. We must stop this war pony that walks.
Too late, Nathan. Too late.
The Duke ended the 1940s on a patriotic high with Sands of Iwo Jima, the Public Studio's sentimental but compelling tribute to the U.S. Marines, who fought one of the most intense battles in World War II's Pacific Theater. Playing the hard-as-nails Sergeant Stryker, Wayne earned his first Academy Award nomination. Fearless in battle, Stryker is both a hero to his men and a stern taskmaster who demands 110%. John Agar co-stars with the Duke in Alan Dwan's box office hit, which recreates the legendary flag raising on Iwo Jima.
This is the story of boys, yours and your neighbors, who overnight became heroic men.
I'm gonna ride you till you can't stand up. But when you do stand up, you're gonna be Marines.
They're all here, the lonely ones, the tough ones, the quiet ones, and those who found love 10,000 miles from home.
I wonder how many other people have had just 44 hours and 32 minutes.
Lots, I guess.
These are your boys, who John Wayne as Sergeant Stryker forged into fighting men. Men who said he was as hard-hearted as steel. But one woman knew differently. So long.
So long, Sergeant. I'll pray for you.
A letter from my wife after 18 months. You know where she is? In England, entertaining troops. Entertaining troops? Why isn't she here entertaining me? I'm a troop.
Guys who laughed at life under the shadow of death. This is their story. A story the world will never forget.
Well, you can sit here and be tough if you want to, but I'm going out there and get that guy. And the only way you can stop me is to kill me.
That's just what I'll do.
At first, Wayne passed on making Sands of Iwo Jima because he didn't like the script. But when the Marine Corps officials asked him to make the film for the sake of the Corps, the Duke signed on, pending a rewrite by his good friend, screenwriter James Edward Grant. Shot near the Marine Corps Camp Pendleton base outside San Diego, Sands of Iwo Jima received 4 Academy Award nominations and garnered rave reviews for the Duke in one of his most famous roles. In 1950, the Duke and John Ford brought their cavalry trilogy of Republic Studio westerns to a rip-roaring conclusion with the box office hit Rio Grande. In his 6th film with Ford, Wayne finally meets his match on screen, the gorgeous and talented Irish actress Maureen O'Hara, the greatest of his leading ladies. They portray an estranged couple, whose only child, played by Claude Jarman Jr., has enlisted in his father's cavalry troop. The stars generate real chemistry in Rio Grande, which Ford shot in Utah for half the cost of Fort Apache.
Under the inspired direction of 3-time Academy Award winner John Ford, James Warner Bella's Saturday Evening Post novel comes thrillingly alive. The truly great cast stars John Wayne in the greatest role he's ever played, and Maureen O'Hara, more lovely than ever before. Co-starring Ben Johnson, Claude Jarman Jr., Harry Carey Jr., and Chill Wills, with J. Carroll Nash, Grant Withers, Victor McLaglen. Here is romance, warm and daring. Here is conflict, as a man tries to be both commanding officer and father to his son.
You've chosen my way of life. Hope you have the guts to endure it.
May I also put something straight?
Proceed.
I'm not in this post to call you father. I was ordered here as Trooper Jefferson York of the United States Cavalry.
Here is a woman's torture, fighting for her boy, a soldier, before he is a man.
It would be a start if you'd let Jeff go.
Get you back.
If that were a condition.
Adventure, starring John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara. It will surely take its place among John Ford's greatest triumphs.
In 1952, Wayne took a break from westerns and war films to show off his comic flair in John Ford's long-in-the-works dream project, The Quiet Man. It had taken Ford nearly 20 years to bring Maurice Walsh's 1933 short story to the screen. Wayne had been attached to the film since 1944, as had Maureen O'Hara, who had first worked with Ford on How Green Was My Valley in 1941. The sparks fly between the co-stars and The Quiet Man, which most critics rank as the very best of their 5 films.
I'd like to tell you about The Quiet Man. He's John Wayne in a picture you'll soon be cheering. It's the story of Sean Thornton, a right-intended man who came from America to forget his past in Innisfree. There he met a fiery red-headed lass, and the village marriage broker went to work.
That's a pretty bonnet you have on.
Bonnet? Don't you be talking to me about bonnets. After leaving mine stuck up there like a...
Easy now. Have the good manners not to hit the man until he's your husband and entitled to hit you back.
Then her bully of a brother, Red Will Danaher, refused to pay her rightful dowry.
There'll be no locks or bolts between us, Mary Kate, except those in your own mercenary little heart.
Mary Kate left him to go to Dublin, but he caught her at the station and brought her back with the whole town watching him do it.
I'll pay you. Never.
Then the fight was on. A fight they're still talking about in Innisfree. It's a wonderful picture. The finest ever brought to the screen by John Ford, and he's won 3 Academy Awards. His direction makes unforgettable the performances of John Wayne, Maureen O'Hara, Barry Fitzgerald, and Victor McLaglen.
Professionally speaking, 1956 was the best of times, the worst of times for the Duke, who returned to Monument Valley after making the biggest mistake of his entire career, playing Genghis Khan in the infamous flop, The Conqueror. Down but not out, Wayne bounced back from that disaster with his next film, John Ford's magnificent western, The Searchers, which features one of Wayne's greatest performances as the strong but troubled Civil War veteran, Ethan Edwards.
A man whose unconquerable will and boundless determination carved a lusty, rough, and boisterous slice of history called The Searchers. It's John Wayne as Ethan Edwards, who had a rare kind of courage. The courage that simply keeps on and on, far beyond all reasonable endurance, never thinking of himself as martyred, never thinking of himself as brave.
So we'll find him in the end, I promise you. We'll find him.
Here is the story of a man, hard and relentless, tender and passionate, of people who dared to challenge a hostile land. Here is drama of great love and aching loneliness.
I found him. I found Lucy.
What you saw was a buck wearing Lucy's dress. I found Lucy back in the canyon.
What was she?
What do you want me to do? Draw you a picture? Spell it out? Don't ever ask me. As long as you live, don't ever ask me more.
And if you don't hear my first holler, you better read my mind, because I don't aim to raise no 2 hollers on any subject at hand.
Yes, sir.
Boy, watch that knife.
Go, Martin, please.
Stand aside, Martin.
Oh, you don't, Ethan. Ethan, no, you don't.
Stand aside. Looks like you got yourself surrounded.
Yeah, and I figure on getting myself unsurrounded. Let's go!
In 1959's Rio Bravo, directed by Howard Hawks, the Duke shares the screen with Dean Martin, who is making his first Western, and with teen idol Ricky Nelson, of Ozzie and Harriet fame. The two singers saddled up to play the Duke's sidekicks in this action-packed Western, in which Sheriff John T. Chance, played by Wayne, takes on the hired guns of a powerful rancher, determined to spring his criminal younger brother from jail. Although Wayne thought co-star Dean Martin had the flashier part as the drunken deputy, the Duke gives one of his most likable performances in Rio Bravo, the second of his 5 films with Howard Hawks.
Yes, there'll never be another like Rio Bravo, with its thundering story of raw courage against opening odds, and its once-in-a-lifetime combination of today's hottest star names. You've seen nothing like them together, and here at Rio Bravo, nothing can tear them apart.
Not even a thank you do I get.
Maybe you're right, Stumpy.
Huh?
You're a treasure.
Well,
I don't know what I'd do without you.
Tired, aren't you, John T? I can fix you a nice hot bath.
All I want is a drink.
Then, this is all I can do for you?
I told him you were one of the best.
I'll tell you what I'm a lot better at, Mr. Wheeler. That's minding my own business. No offense, Sheriff.
Where are you going?
Get your hands off.
I said, where are you going?
You got no use for a man you can't depend on. One bad night and I'm done for.
Better go easy on that stuff. That makes 3 you have.
Yep. You'd be lying, because that's what I am, a soft-headed idiot. There isn't any other explanation for staying around here and inviting myself into this.
This has been one of the few peaceful scenes from the picture Rio Bravo, with John Wayne, Dean Martin, and Walter Brennan here. And a new girl, Angie Dickinson.
Tell him about Ricky Nelson.
Oh yeah, that's me.
The Civil War provides the backdrop for 1959's The Horse Soldiers, John Ford's thrilling adaptation of Harold Sinclair's novel, which was based on a true story. Wayne portrays a Union colonel, leading his regiment deep into Confederate territory, on a dangerous mission to destroy a railroad supply line and bridge in Mississippi. But tensions run high between the colonel and the regiment doctor, played by William Holden. In a film praised for its authentic depiction of the Civil War.
Make way for the screen's 2 top stars in their most outstanding roles. John Wayne and William Holden, riding hell-bent for glory in the most daring adventure that ever thundered across the screen. Make way for The Horse Soldiers.
In 1960, after pitching it around Hollywood for years, Wayne finally got the green light to produce, direct, and star in his dream project, The Alamo. The star put a lot of his own money into the $12 million budgeted film, co-starring Lawrence Harvey and Richard Widmark. Nearly 1,600 horses and riders were used in The Alamo, which Wayne shot on location in Texas. His epic retelling of the 1830 siege of the San Antonio Mission cast Wayne as the real-life frontier hero, known for wearing a coonskin cap.
Starring John Wayne as Colonel David Crockett.
He's still on his feet.
Oh, no! Oh, yes! Oh, yes, and it's my turn. Well, thanks, friend. If you don't insist on having them to yourself, I'll give you a hand.
Pleasure, friend.
You must be Jim Bowie.
Well,
Excuse me.
Richard Widmark as Jim Bowie. Lawrence Harvey as Colonel William Travis. And guest star Richard Boone as Sam Houston.
Where's Jim Bowie?
He's indisposed, sir.
Indisposed? By God, if you mean drunk, you say drunk, sir.
He's drunk, sir.
Frankie Avalon as Smitty, youngest of the Alamo Defenders.
All you need is a little Dr. Beekeeper fix on.
See?
Davy, what's going to happen to us? I mean, to you and me.
I'm gonna tell you something, Flacca, and I want you to listen tight. When I come down here to Texas, I was looking for something. I didn't know what. There's right and there's wrong. You gotta do one or the other. You do the one and you're living. You do the other and you may be walking around, but you're dead as a beaver hat.
All occupants of the mission will leave at once. If this order is not followed with dispatch, there will be no quarter given.
I hate to say anything good about that long-winded jackanapes, but he does know the short way to start a war.
185 men fighting to their deaths against a horde of 7,000 in the most savage hand-to-hand combat in history. Filling the giant theater screen with spectacular adventure, filmed on a scale unequaled in motion picture history, recreating the 13 glorious days of the siege history will never forget, and you will always remember the Alamo.
In 1962, two of Hollywood's greatest stars teamed up for the first time in a Western now regarded as a masterpiece of the genre. In John Ford's The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, the Duke portrays a tough but basically decent gunslinger who forms an unlikely alliance with a lawyer, played by James Stewart, in the frontier town of Shinbone, where the outlaw Liberty Valance, played by Lee Marvin, terrorizes the citizens. Told in flashback, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance received mixed reviews when it opened in the spring of 1962. Today, it's hailed as a profound elegy for the passing of the Old West.
Out of the flame and fury of the frontier, the Old West lives again as only John Ford can recreate it. Peopled with wonderful characters who have become legend in their own time. Of them all, two are the most memorable: Liberty Valance and the man who shot him.
That's my steak, Valance.
Well, you heard him, dude. Pick it up.
I said you, Liberty. You pick it up.
And the man who shot him was justifiably destined to become a hero. Yet, strangely enough, only one of these people could be sure he knew the identity of the man who shot Liberty Valance.
Now, you stay out of this, Donovan. He's been hiding behind your gun long enough. You got a choice, dishwasher. Either you get out of town, or tonight you be out in that street alone. Say he had a gun in his hand, didn't you?
I didn't say that.
That ain't murder, Mr. Marshall. That's a clean-cut case of self-defense. Now get out of my way. This time, right between the eyes.
In 1968, Wayne produced, co-directed, and starred in what is certainly the most controversial film of his 50-year career, the pro-Vietnam War action film, The Green Berets. The Duke paid $50,000 of his own money to buy the rights to Robin Moore's 1965 bestseller. Critics scorned Wayne's arch-conservative take on the Vietnam War. But the Duke made no apologies for his politics or the Green Berets.
I found him. His name is Ban Sun Ti. And I will give him to you.
When?
1 week from tonight, at the Ocosto plantation.
Do you trust her?
Of course. She's my brother's wife.
We don't go back without the general.
They're elite corps commandos, nameless and faceless in 100 newsreels and dispatches. Now you'll know them, and you'll know there are as many different kinds of courage as there are names. Colonel Mike Kirby, the pro. Beckworth, the doubter. Sergeant Muldoon, the bull. Doc McGee, the dependable. Captain Nim, the hater. Sergeant Peterson, the con man. Sergeant Kowalski, the killer. Sergeant Provo, the humble. You'll know them all in The Green Berets.
LZ is a meadow just over that rise.
Well, let's move out. Move out. In place.
30 years after he rode to stardom in Stagecoach, the Duke drank his way to an Academy Award, playing the soused, down-on-his-luck Rooster Cogburn in 1969's True Grit. Then 62 years old, Wayne relished the chance to play the colorful, larger-than-life role in Henry Hathaway's adaptation of the Charles Portis novel. Although he and newcomer Kim Darby didn't really click off-screen, they have an easygoing and natural rapport in True Grit. Glenn Campbell co-stars as an inexperienced Texas Ranger, and Robert Duvall plays Cogburn's longtime nemesis, and the film hailed as an instant classic.
Move along! Come on.
They tell me you're a man with True Grit.
Well, what do you want? Speak up.
I've already wrinkled the paper. It's pretty loose because your makings are too dry. I'm looking for Tom Cheney.
Well, who's he?
He's the man that shot and killed my father, Frank Ross. Marshal Rooster Cogburn and I are going after the murderer, Tom Cheney.
How did you light on that greasy vagabond?
They say he has grit.
He's a notorious thumper. He's not a man I would care to share a bed with.
Nor would I.
Starring John Wayne as Rooster Cogburn, the most colorful character he's ever played.
If I smelled as bad as you, I wouldn't live near people.
Kim Darby as Mattie Ross.
My God. She reminds me of me.
Glenn Campbell in his first big screen role.
A little earlier, I gave some thought to stealing a kiss from you, although you are very young. And you're unattractive to boot. But now I'm of a mind to give you 5 or 6 good licks with my belt.
Well, one would be as unpleasant as the other.
What are you doing? Looking for sign.
You couldn't see it if you saw it.
They're trailing the most surprised killer the West ever knew.
I'm here to take you back to Fort Smith and hang you.
And I think I will not go. Now, how do you like that?
Now, you mean to say that you won't go with me on your own free will?
You just got it the other way around. Now you will follow me. I didn't think you'd do it. I mean to kill you in 1 minute, Ned, or see you hanged in Fort Smith at Judge Parker's convenience. Which will it be?
I call that bold talk for a one-eyed fat man.
No grit, Rooster Cogburn. Not much.
In January of 1976, production began on the last film in the Duke's 50-year career, The Shootist. Although his health was precarious at best, Wayne summoned the wherewithal to play the title character, J.B. Brooks, a terminally ill gunfighter trying to make peace with his notorious past, while spending his remaining days in a boarding house run by a widow, played by Lauren Bacall. Ron Howard co-stars as the widow's teenage son, who forms a bond with the dying gunfighter, while others incur his wrath. As the Duke brought his remarkable career to a moving close, riding tall in the saddle till the end, as J.B. Brooks.
The last of the great gunfighters, a living legend. The role is being played by an actor who is himself a living legend, John Wayne. Co-starring with Wayne is a group of Hollywood's finest actors: James Stewart, Richard Boone, Lauren Bacall, Ron Howard, Scatman Crothers, Harry Morgan, Rick Lenz, John Carradine, Sherry North, Hugh O'Brien. This film has the makings of a classic. In it, John Wayne gives the most remarkable performance of his career as he recreates the final days of the man they called the Shootist.
Three years after starring in The Shootist, the Duke lost his battle with cancer, dying at the age of 72 in 1979. For 25 consecutive years, he'd been a top 10 box office draw, a record no other star has ever come close to matching. But Wayne was always much more than just a Hollywood icon. As then-President Jimmy Carter said when Wayne died, in an age of few heroes, he was the genuine article.